Welcome back to Two Pretty Good Bad Men, an Alias Smith & Jones podcast. I'm your anti-running host, Tabitha, and today we are covering Season 3, Episode 1, The Long Chase. We have made it to the last season, and this season feels different than the first two, and only part of that is due to Roger Davis playing Hayes. Production on Season 3 partly took place in Moab, Utah. Why? I don't know. Universal wanted to shake things up, I guess. Maybe they hoped to drum up more interest in the show this way. I really don't know. They filmed a few episodes on location there, including this one, which takes place mainly outside. They also filmed a ton of exterior shots to be used throughout the entire season, even when filming the interiors back in LA. And most prominently, they filmed a lot of footage of Ben and Roger riding around the landscape with those big, beautiful rock formations and mountains around them, and this footage would be used in the tags, to my recollection anyway, of every single episode this season with different dialogue looped in. They had nothing to do with the story, it was just Hayes and Kid riding around and talking or teasing or bickering, and it does look beautiful. It definitely adds a sense of scope to the series that's not present in seasons 1 and 2. Alexander Singer, who is kind of the unsung hero of this show for me at this point, led the Utah production team. He not only directed several episodes at this point, but he helped ease Roger into the show. And he had a pretty good time in Moab, which makes me happy. He deserves it after going through the biggest game in the West. Roger and Ben were still not really getting along. On screen together, I think they're fine. They don't have the same spark that Ben and Pete had, but they have enough chemistry that it feels okay to me. This version of the Hayes and Kid relationship is much more fraught, but it's no less ride or die. Whereas with Pete and Ben, that relationship felt easy, warm, and loving. This new one feels kind of like vitriolic best buds, to use the trope term. Like, they love each other, but maybe they don't like each other sometimes. Pete was a very giving actor, and that's something that Roger liked about him. I mentioned back in my Smiler with a Gun episode that Pete would be off camera helping Roger get the reactions and lines right during Roger's close-ups. Roger, as an actor, thrived off of his scene partner. But Ben was not Pete. We've talked about how competitive Ben was, and he was in no mood to help Roger out. Roger said, quote, "The problem with Smith & Jones was that for me, for the most part, it was hard and I wasn't having a good time. And there was an element of Ben's enjoying that I wasn't having a good time, at least from my paranoid perspective." End quote. In Ben's defense, a lot of the reason he wasn't giving Roger anything to bounce off of while in Moab was because Ben literally couldn't see. He couldn't wear his contacts in the desert because of all the dust. But he admitted that he realized Roger was struggling and didn't do much to help him out. Quote, "Roger's one of those guys who just kind of got in his own way a little bit sometimes, but once you didn't let it bother you, it was hysterical to watch." End quote. Ben! That's kind of a dickish thing to say. Monty Laird shared an incident about how there was a scene where Roger and Ben had to gallop at full speed down a hill and then make a quick left. Laird knew that because of Ben's competitive streak and Roger's general frustration and unhappiness, the ride was going to turn into a race between them. Even if the scene wasn't meant to be. Boys. Boys. Anyway, that ended with Roger's horse dragging him like 30 feet. He was fine, though. The season kicked off with The Long Chase. The episode was shot in mid to late July of 1972, and it aired September 16th, 1972. The story and teleplay were by Roy Huggins, and the episode was directed by Alexander Singer. In his last appearance, we have J.D. Cannon back as Harry Briscoe. Let's all give him a round of applause and say farewell to Mr. Briscoe. We also have the return of actor James Drury, who, if you'll recall, played Lon Travers way back in the pilot. He's back this time as Sheriff Tankersley. Then we have Frank Sinatra Jr. of all people in a small part as Deputy Wemser. Yes, son of Frank Sinatra, brother of Nancy, he was famously kidnapped in 1963, but returned after a ransom was paid. There was a movie about it in 2003 called Stealing Sinatra. Aside from that debacle, he did have a musical career, what a surprise, and an acting career, what a surprise. Look, some Nepo babies are very, very talented and deserve success based on that talent. Like, for example, I'm not mad that Jamie Lee Curtis is a movie star. I'm just not sure that Frank Sinatra is one of the truly talented ones who would have made it on their own. He guest starred on The Patty Duke Show, Get Christy Love, Marcus Welby MD, The Love Boat, Son of the Beach, and Family Guy. I remember one of those episodes of Family Guy, but he stuck mainly to music. Sinatra Jr. passed away in 2016 at age 72. Next is George Kemis as Hank Silvers. I can't find much personal info about Kemis except that he was Greek, and therefore he was cast in a lot of, quote, ethnic roles. Oh, Hollywood. You're gross. His on-screen acting career began in 1950 in an uncredited part in I Shot Billy the Kid. His first television role was an episode of Hop Along Cassidy. He was on other westerns like Circus Boy, Broken Arrow, Cheyenne, Colt 45, and so many more. So many. Non-Western shows include The Time Tunnel, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Night Gallery, The $6 Million Man, and Policewoman. His last credit on IMDb is for the 1979 miniseries The French Atlantic Affair. He passed away in 2008 at age 82. And finally, we have Larry Storch as Muggs McGee-Hoo. Storch was an actor and comedian. He worked as a stand-up from his teen years on. He got his own variety show in 1953, and his pal Tony Curtis found roles for him so he could continue to work as an actor, and not just a personality. He was in films like Airport 75, The Great Race, and 40 Pounds of Trouble. He did a lot of voice acting as well. He lent his voice to Underdog, The Pink Panther, Tennessee Tuxedo and His Tales, The Adventures of Batman, Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo, and Garfield and Friends. On live-action television, he's probably best known for starring in The F Troop. He also guest starred on Gilligan's Island, I Dream of Jeannie, Get Smart, That Girl, The Flying Nun, All in the Family, Chips, Trapper John, Police Story, and The Fall Guy. He passed away in 2022 at age 99. Now, let's see what Season 3 has in store for us, shall we? We open on the Bank of Cottonwood being robbed. A gunshot rings out and two thieves make a run for it amidst the chaos. And opening credits. And there is new footage highlighting Moab in the credits now. It looks good. It really, truly does. Speaking of Moab, the guys are riding through the countryside where you can see how wide open it is and all those beautiful rock formations are towering in the background. It's just a noticeable improvement to what the backlots of LA had to offer. They pass a man in a buggy, greet him, and the man seems to recognize him. He takes off one way and the boys take off the other. There's no music in this for a while, just the sound of the wind whipping and the horses running, and then they cut to a posse that's tracking them. The boys ride into town, straight to the livery stable, and quick on their feet manage to get two fresh horses, and they release all the other horses in the stable. Kid does pay the stable master for his trouble though, so at least there's that. And again, they're off as fast as they can. The posse rides into the livery stable and asks if the guy has any horses. Well, he did until a few minutes ago. The boys have ditched their horses and they're laying low, watching as a train pulls to a stop. Just as the train gets moving again, they make their move and hop aboard one of the cars. And who should happen to be catching a ride too? Harry motherfucking Briscoe. The guys are happy to see him for some inexplicable reason. They ask what he's doing there, whereas me, I simply would have jumped off the train the second I saw him. Well, Harry lost his job again. The Bannerman Agency said he was incompetent, which is the only competent thing the Bannerman Agency has ever done on this show. He tells them that they're the only friends he has. Boy, that is sad. But not surprising. Harry's not exactly a people person. They peek outside to see the posse. One of the men is climbing the telegraph pole to send a message ahead to the next town. Kid figures that they'll have to bail. Without water or horses? No way, says Hayes. Hey, that rhymed. They wouldn't make it. Hayes asks if Harry still has his Bannerman Agency credentials. He tries to deny it at first, but then admits to it. Harry, don't even pretend not to help them. You are on such thin ice with me. The boys do their best to get Harry back to looking like a Bannerman man and not so much like a train hobo. And then the music kicks back in. I kind of wish it hadn't. I was into the no music thing. The train pulls into town and they make it up like Harry has caught Hayes and Kid, and they are his prisoners. He makes his case to the sheriff that he's going to deliver them to the authorities in Wyoming. The sheriff has them all wait while he goes into the telegraph office. Kid is worried that he's checking on Harry's credentials, but Hayes, as usual, is keeping calm. When the sheriff comes back out, he says he's sending one of his deputies with them. Deputy Frank Sinatra Jr., what could go wrong? He has to accompany them all the way to Cheyenne. The boys, Harry, and Frank Sinatra's son all board the stagecoach and take off back into the desert. The trio tire very quickly of Sinatra's son whining. He mentions that the sheriff sent a telegraph to the Bannerman agency to check on Harry, but didn't get an answer fast enough, and that's why he was sent along with them. This is unwelcome news for obvious reason. Kid nudges Harry to try and get him to do something, and eventually he gets the message and claims that there's a dust trail behind them and it might be the Devil's Hole Gang! When Sinatra Jr. looks, sure enough, there is a dust trail behind them, which comes as a surprise to our heroes. The boys fake it that, yep, that's definitely the Devil's Hole Gang after them. Then they hint to Harry again to do something. Harry asks if there's a ranch nearby. Sinatra Jr. confirms that there is, and Harry orders the stagecoach to stop there. When they do stop at the Circle Y Ranch, Harry and the guys get out, and Harry tells the stage to take off with Sinatra Jr. in it. Not bad, Harry. Not bad. They run up to the ranchers, and Harry sticks to his story about the boys being his prisoners. He asks them for 3 horses, which he's given, and there's also 2 women there who were like super thirsty for our guys, and even more so when they find out that they're Hannibal Hayes and Kid Curry. Oh, I guess that's why shows like Love After Lockup exist. Meanwhile, the posse, led by the sheriff, catches the stage. Oh, Sinatra Jr. is so fired. Sorry, kid. Maybe your dad can have the sheriff whacked or something. I do feel bad for him, actually. It's not really his fault. I mean, it is, but he got bamboozled. Even Hannibal Hayes has been bamboozled every once in a while. Back with our heroes, they are once again riding like bats out of hell, going south toward the railroad. The sheriff tracks them and realizes that they turned to head south. He goes back to town but orders some of his men to stay with the trail. As our guys are riding, Kid's horse goes lame. Hayes scoops him up on the back of his horse, and they leave Kid's behind. Aw, poor horsey. But this is actually a really natural-looking moment between Hayes and Kid. It's just that I can't imagine Ben loved riding behind Roger, given the animosity between them, and his constant need to outdo his co-star, whoever that happens to be at the time. Hayes laments that they're going to be caught, and he's going to end up in prison for aiding and abetting. Kid tells him to shut it, and Hayes reminds him that if it weren't for them, he would have been in prison 6 months ago for theft. 6 months ago? You're telling me it's only been 6 months between the reformation of Harry Briscoe and this episode? No, I'm not buying that at all. They spot a train, but it's moving the wrong way. It'll take them back to Little Grand, where the sheriff will be waiting for them. Hayes decides they have to go for it anyway. They haven't been riding that long. They can probably push further on the horses. But I'm not an old-timey outlaw, what do I know? They set the horses loose and wait for the train. They hop aboard for the second time. Unfortunately, this car is also occupied by the bank robbers we saw in the teaser. They talk pretty tensely for a few minutes when Harry seemingly comes up with a plan all on his own. He tells the robbers that his 2 friends are going to have to jump off this train before it gets back to Little Grand. He tells the boys that if they jump off near a certain big rock that they should wait for him there, and he'll be back for them with horses and food. He's also, pushing his fingers into Hayes' back for some reason. Kid isn't super psyched to follow a plan of Harry Briscoe's, which is fair, but Hayes says that they should go for it. They spot the rock, and it's pretty. It's brown with white stripes near the top. Anyway, the boys jump off. They collapse against a tree, tired and thirsty. The kid asks why they just did that. Hayes said that Harry had a plan, and the look Kid gives him says it all. Why the hell would you ever trust Harry Briscoe, even if he's actually on your side? Kid says that he counts on Hayes to do the thinking, and does Hayes have any actual reason to count on Harry? Any reason to assume that Harry won't immediately get arrested and thrown into jail once they get to Little Grand? Nope, he sure doesn't. Hayes tries to make excuses for himself, but he admits that he was stupid, gullible, and idiotic. And Kid agrees. You know what, Kid? If those things are true about Hayes, and you count on Hayes to do your thinking for you, what does that make you, Kid? Huh? Tell me. Hayes suggests splitting up, but Kid nixes that idea, because they don't even have some place to go, so what good would splitting up do? They come to the conclusion that they probably can't count on Harry, so what's plan B? Hayes suggests waiting for a train that's headed east and jumping on that. But the train doesn't slow down there, and Kid says they wouldn't make it. Hayes' next idea is to wait until dark and then walk back to town. After all, it's only 10 miles. I don't know, remember back in the Red Gap episode where they had to walk 7 miles and complained about it for 5 years? How are they going to walk 10 miles? Just then, the posse rides by and they duck low until they pass. Back on the train, the thieves are playing cards, and Harry is watching them nervously. Eventually, he pulls his gun on them and says he's arresting them because he recognizes them as Hank Silver and Muggs McGee-Hoo. My God, he's right. Look at him go. He is really on a roll this week. The train pulls into Little Grand, and the sheriff is indeed waiting for them. Harry forces the thieves out at gunpoint and is like, "Hey, Sheriff!" The sheriff would like to know what's going on, and Harry tells him that he's doing his job, and he just captured known thieves Silver and McGee-Hoo. The sheriff has those two taken into jail, and then demands to know where Hayes and Curry are. Harry says the Devil's whole gang was on their tail. The sheriff's like, "That was me and my men! And I think you know that." Harry denies it and says that the pair jumped him and overpowered him. The sheriff is not convinced and asks why Hayes and Curry would let him keep his gun. Easy. There's no bullets in that gun. Damn, Harry, you really are making me less ashamed of you. Then the sheriff plays his trump card and says he finally got a response from the Bannerman Agency, and they said he doesn't work for them. Harry laughs and says that that's standard procedure since they work undercover so much, and the agency denies knowledge of them unless the right code phrase is used. The sheriff still doesn't buy it, but he can't disprove it at the moment, so he takes him to the telegraph office. Harry looks like he's about to soil himself. They get another response from the agency congratulating Harry on capturing Silver and McGee-Hoo and tell him to return to the Denver office ASAP. The sheriff tells him that he's a lucky, lucky man. Yeah, I would agree with that. He goes on to say that Silver and McGee-Hoo killed someone in that Cottonwood robbery, so people hate them, but a lot of people like Hayes and Curry, so he still comes out of the situation looking pretty good. Therefore, he's going to let Harry go, but would like him out of his town immediately. Back in the trees, Kid worries that the train might not come until dark, and they probably can't jump a train in the dark. He's really trying Hayes' optimism right now. While the boys are dozing, a train does come along. The whistle wakes them, and they make a run for it. And who do they see on that train? Harry motherfucking Briscoe, who smiles and waves. They run for it. Hayes makes it, and Kid almost makes it, but he falls off. In his defense, this is the third train that they've tried to jump today. Hayes jumps off and runs over to him. Kid's unconscious, and Hayes just kind of stares at him for a while, like, I guess he thinks he's dead? But he doesn't check for a heartbeat or that he's breathing or anything. It's an angsty moment, and Roger does a good job, but it's just weird to assume that he's dead. Like, remember in The Fifth Victim when Hayes got shot off his horse, and Kid leaned down and listened to his chest to see if he was alive. Why doesn't Hayes do that here? Who knows? He also says Jesus. Could you say that back on TV then? Like, I thought you couldn't say that on basic channels unless you were literally referring to Jesus Christ. But that's just something I've been curious about because it always stood out to me that he says Jesus. Anyway, after Hayes stares at him for about a year, Kid comes to. And in their own manly way, Kid asks if he jumped off the train for him, and Hayes is like, yeah, you know how stupid I am. Oh, boys. Hayes helps him up, and they go back to their trees. They start talking about all the ways they're going to kill Harry Briscoe. And I can't blame them. What are they supposed to think? The day marches on, and Kid says that they'll have to walk into town when the sun goes down. They don't have another choice. And Kid asks if he knows how long they've gone without food, because he's mostly been complaining about food this entire time, and Hayes rightly points out that they'll die a lot faster without water than they will without food. And I know I already pointed out all their complaining about the 7 miles they had to walk in Red Gap, but it just now occurs to me that they walked across the desert in Smiler with a gun for at least several days with only 1 jug of water to split between 3 people and no food, and they made it that time. I think they'll last 10 miles in the dark. It's only been 1 day after all. They start walking in some more shitty day for night and come across a kid with 2 extra horses. They stop him and ask him where he's taking them. They tell this kid that they've got friends in the bushes with guns, so he'd better talk. He says that a very important man paid him to deliver these horses. Kid that is our kid, correctly guesses that man was Harry Briscoe, and the horses are for them. They tell him their names are Smith and Jones, and the boy believes them. He says there's food and water packed up with their horses. Hayes tells the boy that Harry Briscoe is the only friend they've got in the world, and the boy responds that that's terrible. It really is, and also it's not true. What about Soapy, Silky, Georgette, Clementine, Diamond Jim, Lom Travers, Wheat and Kyle? They've got friends. The guys take the horses and ride away. In the tag, Kid tells Hayes that it really is beautiful country. Yes, Moab is very pretty. This episode has gone out of its way to assure us of that. They say they should slow down and enjoy the scenery more, just as they pass the original man that they passed in the buggy at the beginning of the episode. The man races off his way and the boys race off theirs. So I guess their cycle of hell continues. The end. I love this episode. It's so strong. It's stripped down of all cons and all mysteries. It's just the boys being chased and trying to get away. Usually if the boys are being chased by a posse or something, it's just like a passing thing that happens at the beginning of an episode. They were wise to make a whole episode out of it. Like, they're really kind of stuck here. They can't just run in any old direction because they're in the desert, and the nearest town has a sheriff waiting for them. And Harry done good. I mean, he did good in Red Gap too, but he does even better here. He doesn't just not screw up Hayes' plan, he comes up with a plan on his own. And succeeds. Our dumb sometimes detective is all grown up. There's some great moments between our guys here too. I've said that their relationship is more prickly with Rogers as Hayes, and that is true, but it makes moments like Hayes jumping off the train after the kid falls that much better. They love each other. Hayes would never leave the kid behind. The line of the episode goes to Hayes. At the beginning, when Harry is complaining about being fired for incompetence, he asks the boys if they can believe that, and Hayes says, "We've met lots of Bannerman detectives in our time, and there's no way you could be any more incompetent than they are." And Harry thanks him. And the episode, it goes to Harry. Honestly, he came through for them, and he did it by himself. How could I not bestow this highest honor upon him? Next time on Alias Smith and Jones, Buddy Epson is back, and the boys are being pursued by one scary hunter. Research for this podcast comes from the wonderful book Alias Smith and Jones, The Story of Two Pretty Good Bad Men by Sandra K. Sagala and Joanne M. Bagwell. Thanks for listening.